My belief in the Norse spiritual path is evident in everything I do. I especially connect with the cycles of change in the Ragnarok, the idea that destruction isn't the end, but the beginning of something new. I've walked through my own fires, lost what I thought was stable, and rebuilt from the ashes time and time again. Every step in my recovery and my life has mirrored the turning of the ages, the breaking and remaking of my own world. And now, as I finally move into a single-man sober house, into my own space, I know this is another cycle coming full circle. Not an ending, but a new foundation. This is How to Heal. You see, fate is a strange thing. It weaves a path that sometimes feels unavoidable. Yet within that path, every choice shapes what comes next. In February of 2024, I found myself at my lowest point I had seen in years. I was in a full relapse. It kind of doesn't leave much room if you let it go too far. But weird, that great tapestry of fate, it wasn't done with me yet. With nothing left but the weight of my own choices, I walked through the doors of Cold Forge on February 28th, stripped of everything with the chance to start over. And then came the moment, February 29th, a day that exists only once every 4 years, my first morning sober, waking up with not a substance in my system. If there was ever a sign that this was a rare and defining moment, well, yeah, it was that. That first morning was brutal. Sobriety doesn't come with instant relief. It comes with withdrawal, regret, and the crushing reality of every mistake that led you there. But it also comes with something else. Opportunity. In the Norse belief for Dandi, the present moment is where fate is truly shaped. That day, the choice was simple. Surrender to the past or start forging a new path. I chose to push forward. The first few weeks were a blur of detox, group therapy, and facing the demons I had buried in addiction. Not to mention an encounter I had with ODIN and the gift of this berserker axe that I haven't taken off my neck except to clean it or maybe get a haircut. And if you're curious about that story, I'm linking that video in the description. Well, each day, it's another choice. Attend the meeting or don't. Open up or shut down. Commit or run. Little by little, each decision will start to shape something new. By the time I left treatment, I was stepping onto a new branch of weird. One that led me into the structured world of recovery houses. This is the next step. The place where the past still had its grip, but the present had enough structure to fight back. A room with two other men, a strict curfew, mandatory meetings, and no wiggle room for bad decisions. In the old days, warriors earned their place in the shield wall through discipline and brotherhood. In recovery, it wasn't much different. I wasn't in control yet, but I was learning. Each restriction was a tool, a safeguard against the chaos. I had barely escaped it. The Norns, they had given me a new thread of weird. Now it was up to me to weave it into something worth keeping. Recovery isn't just about quitting. It's about learning how to live in the now, the Vedanti, the ever-folding present. It's where fate is truly shaped. In those early days of sober living, every choice mattered at first. The structure of the recovery house, well, felt suffocating at times. There was curfews, mandatory meetings, accountability at every turn. But looking back, I realized it was exactly what I needed at the moment. The walls weren't just keeping me in, they were keeping the chaos out. Without the distractions, without the easy escape of old habits, I had no choice but to face myself. And that's where the real battle begins. Alright, so this is going to be all out of whack because the original footage for this part of the video, it got corrupted. So after a few months of sobriety, I moved up from the recovery house into a sober house. The shift was drastic. Fewer rules, more freedom, and a test of how well I could hold myself accountable. In the recovery house, someone was always checking it, making sure I was where I needed to be. In the sober house, the only two rules were simple. Pay your rent on time, stay sober. That's it. The training wheels were off. And it was up to me to prove that I could maintain what I had built. But freedom, it's a double-edged sword. Without structure, It could be so easy to fall into old patterns, because that present moment, the verdandi, it's always shifting, and every action feeds into what comes next. The question wasn't whether I could stay clean when I was watched. It was whether I could do it when I was on my own. But the hardest part of sober living isn't the responsibilities. It is the absolute lack of privacy. Sharing a room with one other person was better than 3 men in a room, but it still meant no real space to call my own. And a house full of men in recovery, trauma is constant. Some were serious about staying clean. Others were just going through the motions. Others relapsed, and others fell back into really bad habits like this guy. But it's principles over personalities. That's the saying. In the Norse culture, a strong whole requires discipline, honor, and a willingness to hold the line, even when things get difficult. This is no different. The real challenge wasn't just my sobriety. It was learning to hold myself steady in the middle of a storm, to make good choices in every moment, and to understand that the path forward, well, it was mine to carve, one decision at a time. Well, freedom comes with its own sets of challenges. Moving into the sober house meant I was no longer under strict supervision, but it also meant that if I fell, there were a lot fewer safety nets to catch me. And then, just as I was starting to feel like I had my feet underneath me, reality hit hard. I lost my job, not because I messed up at work, not because I relapsed, but because of the past catching up with me. Unpaid child support. And the restaurant didn't want to deal with setting up a payment program for a tipped employee. Immoral? Definitely. Illegal? Probably. But I had no time to dwell on that. In the sober house, you only have 2 rules. Stay clean, pay your rent. No excuses. So if I wanted to keep a roof over my head and stay in line with my probation officer, I had to figure something out. Fast. I scrambled. I took whatever work I could find. Day labor, odd jobs, anything that paid enough to cover the rent. It wasn't about pride. It was about survival. This is another test, another moment where the path shaped by past actions, was showing its hand. Losing that job was the direct result of choices I had made long before the decision to get sober. And now, I had to deal with those consequences. But for Dandi, the present, well, it's always changing. The past may have put me here, but what I did next, well, that would determine where I went from here. And so, I worked some weeks, well, felt impossible, balancing recovery, scraping together enough money, staying sane in a house full of men who all struggling on their own. But each time I paid that rent, each time I checked in with my probation officer, and I kept things moving forward, well, that was another victory, another thread in the weave of my fate that I had just taken control of. There was still no privacy, no space that was truly mine, and the constant presence of others, well, it could be overwhelming. But the climb continued. I had started with 3 men in a room, then moved up to 2. Now, the next step was clear. I needed to get my own space. A space where I could finally breathe. Back in the days, thralls, they earned their way to independence through trials and perseverance. This was my trial. Staying sober wasn't just about avoiding substances. It was about proving that I could stand on my own. I could take responsibility for my life, and I could push forward no matter what obstacles came my way. I wasn't just fighting to stay clean. I was fighting to reclaim my life, one hard-earned step at a time. The modern Havamal, it's more than just a book. It's a way to bring ancient wisdom into your daily life while supporting this channel and my upcoming documentary, American Heathen. With its blend of Norse philosophy and modern insight, it offers a powerful guide for living with honor, strength, and wisdom. Get your copy today and help keep this journey moving forward. Your support fuels the next chapter of How to Heathen. A house full of recovering addicts is not a peaceful place. It's a battlefield of personalities, a test of patience and discipline, where the smallest spark can ignite chaos. And for me, there was another layer to it. I'm the only heathen in the house. In a world where most leaned on the Christian idea of surrendering to a higher power, I walk a different path. I didn't see my recovery as giving up control, but as taking full ownership of my choices, my weird. That mindset didn't always fit with the others, and it made me stand out a little. Some didn't care, some didn't get it, and then there were those who thought it was funny. They would call me Thor every chance they got. They would call me Odin, the old father, half as a joke, and half because they couldn't be bothered to understand. But in our tradition, a hall is only as strong as the honor of those within it. And in a sober house with minimum rules, frith, stability, peace within the walls, it was fragile. With so many different personalities clashing, it was up to each of us to hold the line. I had to remind myself of that constantly. In the past, if someone mocked me or disrespected my beliefs, I'd meet it with aggression, most of the time with violence. But that was the old way, the way that led me to destruction. Now, I had to walk a different path. I had to choose honor over ego, patience over pride, principles over personalities. That's one of the hardest lessons of recovery. It didn't matter if I was the odd one out. It didn't matter if the others didn't understand, or if they saw my faith as some weird quirk. What mattered was maintaining my own stability, my own integrity, and not letting the noise around me shake my foundation. Some nights I felt like I was walking a tightrope over a pit, one bad day away from losing everything I fought for. But I kept my head down, kept my focus on the goal. Rent was paid, probation was handled, and I stayed clean, no matter how much the world around me tried to shake that foundation. Faith isn't something that just exists. It's something that must be actively maintained through discipline, through patience, through choosing honor, even when it's the harder path. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was proving to myself that I could stand strong, even when I stood alone. And soon, it would be time to move on, to take the next step, and reclaiming my life. As I stand at the door of my new room, key in hand, I take a deep breath. This moment feels different. For the first time since getting sober, I'm stepping into a space that's mine. No more cramped rooms, no more two-man rooms, no more tiptoeing around house drama, no more being the lone heathen surrounded by people who don't understand my path. This room may be small, but it's my stronghold, my steed, a place where I can breathe, think, and move forward on my terms. It's quiet, it's almost unnervingly so. After months of sharing space with others, silence is a new kind of challenge, but it's one I'm ready for. A man's home is a sanctuary, and now I have it. It's not much, but it's a start. And every choice I've made since getting sober has led me here. And now, I'm the one shaping my future. The past is still there, woven into my weird, but for Dandi, the present, is where my hands are steady on the loom. This isn't the end of the journey by far, it's just another step forward. Sobriety is not a destination, it's a path I walk every day, one choice at a time. But now, with this space to call my own, no more just surviving. It's time to thrive. Weird is always weaving, and for the first time in a long time, I'm the one with the hands on the thread. So as I take this next step in my journey, I'm reminded that every choice we make has a power to shape our future. Moving into my own space isn't just about physical freedom. It's about reclaiming my life, my path, and my future. I want to thank each of you for being here with me through this part of my story. Your support has meant more to me than you know. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more of the journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. And if you want to keep walking this path with me, click on this thumbnail for more. Now, keep learning, keep growing. And at all times, stay fucking savage.